I'll be honest, this is one of the heists I've played the least. Not because the Starbreeze partners were saying it was mid weeks before it even released, killing any excitement for it, but because it's lacking in clarity and direction overall and just doesn't feel fun. But if there was any heist to showcase why the significantly reduced investment was a terrible idea, it would be Party Powder. At least Gustavo still knocked it out of the park with the music. Party Powder is the second heist of Year 2, continuing with the new storyline, in massive air quotes there, of the Payday gang fighting the Palatucci crime family, starting with taking back some of Shayu's material from them in these warehouses. There's a catch though, and that's that it's currently being investigated as an active crime scene, so there's cops aplenty. Oh, and the intern that's watching the cameras, don't mind him. Similarly to Diamond District, this heist isn't one with a very defined structure of things to do to find the loot. Instead, it's about how much you steal, with the majority of the loot being cocaine, though there is also a meth lab on the outskirts of the map working functionally the same as Cook-Off, despite the order of ingredients being fixed to make it more distinct from that heist. The primary locales of this heist are the two warehouses, each of which require a QR code to initially enter, and once you're inside, you're basically free to loot as much as you want. The North warehouse here doesn't have anything really special in it aside from this back lounge room where you can potentially find the meth ingredient order, but besides that there's not much to talk about here. The other warehouse is a bit more interesting as that has two floors, with the upper floor having a room locked by a red keycard that once you get inside, has a PC you can hack to find a code for the safe downstairs containing some of the meth ingredients, as well as a rather large amount of the procurable party powder. Both of the warehouses have a large amount of these crates you can open as well, with each of them randomly holding more cocaine for you to loot. This is as good a time as any to talk about the favors since, again, this is much more of a sandbox heist than the others. The first and simplest favor is one that just marks all of the crates that actually have the cocaine with an X on the corner, so you don't need to waste too much time looking for where the powdered sugar is. The next favor is relatively simple as well, allowing you to open a manhole cover between the two warehouses and secure bags there. It's useful, occasionally. It's just not something that you really remember unless it's already right there. The other two favors are practically the same aside from the location, and they're both for bringing the getaway chopper to wherever you choose, either on top of a decommissioned train or a low rooftop of one of the warehouses. These favors interact strangely with the meth lab door though, since in Loud you open it via thermite instead of the red keycard like in Stealth. Without either of these favors, Bile just drops the thermite bag like normal next to the door, nothing of note. However, with either of the helicopter escape favors, you need to manually light the flare at the getaway location for Bile to even attempt dropping the thermite, but instead of it being dropped to the location you actually want it to be dropped, next to the door, it'll be wherever you chose for the getaway to be, which will either make it have no change, or make you go across half the map just to move the thermite to the meth lab door. Now, none of this comes off as bad necessarily, but in total, this heist is just a mess in general. The strange thing is, especially for Stealth, that this is exceptionally front-loaded in terms of difficulty, just avoiding the cops to get enough QR codes to open the warehouses and extra QR code containers that always have cocaine inside. But once you're actually in the warehouses, you only ever have to worry about two wandering cops in each one, with the south one being even easier since there's always upstairs, and the other one is always downstairs. At that point, it's just a matter of finding where all the loot locations are and getting it all to the van without getting caught, which once you've found one path is extremely simple to repeat. Also simple is the matter of cooking meth in Stealth. So long as you don't open the downstairs shutter, which for some absurd reason puts the heist in searching despite having cops instead of generic guards, you're basically sitting, waiting, wondering what you're doing with your life, thinking about how you're going to get the next set of ingredients. And the game still won't have let you put the next meth ingredient in by that point. This, right here, is why I said a stealth version of Cook-Off would be a terrible idea. Imagine if you had to wait around like this for 19 whole bags. It'd be such a boring slog. Thankfully, there's only 4 sets of meth ingredients in this heist, so it could be much, much worse. In Loud, this isn't nearly as much of a waiting game since you'll have SWAT pouring into the building either from the singular open door or the skylights above, where the most challenging part is going to be getting back out of the meth lab to grab the ingredients because you can, frustratingly, only hold one set of ingredients outside of the very specific situation of someone going down while holding ingredients of their own stacking with yours. I wish they would stack up to 4 of each when you're playing solo so you didn't need to move back and forth nearly as much. Or just make them stack up to 4 by default. I know I wouldn't mind that, and I doubt most people that actually enjoy Cook-Off would mind either. Unlike Cook-Off though, this heist in Loud is an absolute mess without any real sources of cover that last more than 3 seconds for multiple reasons, the worst of which being the shutters on the bottom of the warehouses. You remember back in Boys in Blue how sabotaging this power box opened all of the shutters for the garage? Well, the same thing happens here, but for far more of the shutters than in that heist, and it's practically a death sentence in Loud because it removes basically every source of cover inside the buildings. Just like what I proposed with Boys in Blue, each of the shutters should be opened individually instead of all at once, especially when there's already multiple levers for opening said shutters. This is made even worse when the final charge just suddenly happens and you don't even have half the loot secured yet. It shouldn't start until you have at least enough to escape, making the challenge of final charge actually getting all the bags. Okay, I should probably actually go over how I'd redo this heist, starting from the top. Alright folks, let's do this one more time. Party Powder is a heist where the Payday gang goes after the Palatucci gang for screwing over one of their contractors, getting some crooked cops to try and bust her cocaine smuggling locations. She doesn't care about the location so much as the supplies themselves, so your job is to get the drugs back to their rightful owner and get paid. Simple enough. When you start the heist, your objective is to infiltrate one of the two warehouses and secure enough cocaine for Shayu to be happy, with whatever other loot you find, whether it's the 2 bags of cash or 4 bags of meth you cooked yourself, being nothing but a bonus. There's plenty of the powdered sugar here anyway, that shouldn't be too much of an issue. The only thing I'd really change about the locations is just how easy to differentiate the crates holding the coke are at a distance. They have the outlines when you get close, but a bit more clarity than that would be appreciated. Maybe a portable lamp or some caution tape or something. Or an evidence marker, it is an active crime scene. There's always 2 cops that can spawn with the blue keycard outside, and you can use those to infiltrate a container that has either a bunch of junk inside, or the camera interintuitively watching over a box of donuts you can use to lure the cops away, placing them on an outside table. Even the cops inside the building should come outside for these, making the looting in the warehouse you place the donuts next to far easier, especially if you open the right shutters to get away properly. Another thing you'd be able to find with the blue keycard would be a PC, which tells you how much coke is in each warehouse, and that'll be shown on the top left in the objective tab, counting down how much coke you bagged from one of the buildings until there's none left to find. Usually, it's 5 bags in one warehouse and 6 in the other, with the remaining 2 coke bags being outside in QR locked containers, which, ideally, you'd be able to optionally drill open if you trip the alarm and don't feel like hunting down a phone. The last thing to have show up in these blue keycard containers should be a room with a plethora of ammo pickups so you don't need to worry about running out, and a container for emergency treatment stocked with a full wall of first aid kits and armor repair kits. What I'd also add to this heist is some civilian presence, and by that I mean members of the Palatucci crime family, likely sitting inside of this lounge room in the south warehouse, or inside the room with the PC in the north warehouse. This way you would have actual hostages in the heist, as well as thematically tying together the idea of crooked cops being bribed with the mafia, since the current version is extremely lacking in that regard. I didn't even realize these were supposed to be crooked cops until Shade said so. Speaking of Shade, there should probably be more voice lines with her, mostly for clarity's sake, like telling you to find all the cocaine you can grab inside of a warehouse, or being a reminder to put in an ingredient when you decide to start the meth cooking process. She wouldn't tell you what ingredient until you've done it once already, making the process still a challenge of memorizing what's on the whiteboard until you've proven you can do it already. Maybe disable that on higher difficulties to keep the current challenge, aside from a vocal reminder to put the next ingredient in. I like the gunplay in this game, but I also like not forgetting to press objectives. Once the minimum loot is obtained, there should be a little indicator underneath the secure all bags objective, specifying how many of each bag type are left in the heist instead of just a standard X out of 19 for how many you have yet to find. Do you need to cook another set of meth, find a bundle of cash, or is it one of those QR containers you haven't obtained yet? The game doesn't tell you at this point, and that's frustrating, so this should be something the game tells you after you've done the bare minimum. In terms of escapes, I think the ones that existed in this heist are fine, what with Twitch driving back in for you to secure loot once the alarm goes off whenever you can get the van, although I would like a bit of expanding on the sewer access favor, allowing you to actually go down into the sewers themselves and move around without anything bothering you in stealth, and narrow corridors for loud shootouts. Plus, it could be a good way for another escape. Overall though, I think the map itself for Party Powder is decent, but in its current state the heist is very lackluster and bare bones, feeling like it was thrown together in a rush because, let's be honest with ourselves here, it almost definitely was, what with significantly reduced investment and all that. But this heist isn't a terrible idea either. It's just a very mediocre execution that could very easily become an actually enjoyable heist with the right changes. Next to the original 8 launch heist, this one should definitely be on the list for reworks in the near future. Really, I haven't needed to change the recap of a heist for what I'd add into it until now, and this one definitely needs it. Thankfully, past this point in Payday 3's development, things would begin to settle down a bit, and the dev team would start trying different things out with favors and the like, but that's something for next time. Until then, thanks for watching, and I hope you take care.